Three, two, one. Welcome to Jim's Take, another episode. This week, I'm going to talk about all that flexing everybody seems to like to do. Everybody loves their good flex. They're like, kind of take a look at my humble brag and look how amazing I am. And I hope you notice my impressiveness. We're going to talk about all of that. That flex that you think is such a big flex is not the flex that you think it is. And so let's skewer some flexes. I was on a recent vacation. We went on a vacation with some friends, which we don't do, but we did it this time and we had a wonderful time. And my friend Carl and I were talking about, I don't even know how we got on it, but all these people who try to be something that they're not. And I don't understand. Well, I do understand and I don't understand it, right? It seems so silly that I used to even be guilty of this, but it's driven when we think about all these flexes that people try to do. Like the guy blasting rap in his mom's minivan. That's not the flex you think it is, right? You're not tough. And so when I think about this and the insecurities wrapped around it and why we do the flexing and why the flexing is just one added stress on top of so many others that, the insecurity level across the board is going through the roof. And it's because we don't have an anchor. Right? Everything is being upended. And what we thought was a surety for us is no longer a surety. So we're incredibly insecure. We don't feel security. That's a definition of insecure, right? And insecurity generally has a bad moniker, right? Because when we sit at work and we see insecure people, or at home or in the community, right? You know the insecure people, the people flexing, when the flex is not the flex that they think it is. They sit there, insecure people, they make bad decisions because they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They impact the people around them in a very negative manner. And I don't think they realize how much of a negative impact it has on them and their future decisions down the road. And so I want to go through all of that today. We see a lot of this flexing, and I want to go through all the different avenues, right? I've seen it. I used to work at finance. So a lot of insecurity in finance comes around people who have no idea what the hell they're talking about because most people don't understand finance in the way that finance is supposed to be talked about. And so they generally just jump back to comments like market dynamics and, corporate buzzwords. And you see a lot of the senior executives using these corporate buzzwords and they don't mean what they think it means. And they think it shows intelligence. But if you were to pepper them with questions, you would quickly see that the emperor has no clothes. And so, when we think about flexes, it often says more about our fears than our strengths. And we need to shift that. And I want to talk about some of the work that I've done, about the authenticity that I have, the getting off of social media that I've done, and how there's just a serenity to authenticity and embracing where you are in your life and where you're going and the present moment. And I don't want to use these kind of buzzwords in like a hippie kind of way either. But let's talk about, all right, so flex versus perception. Let's talk about that. When you think about personality comes in two components. Okay. So when you ask someone, who's the person that you are, right? What's your personality? Some people will talk about their internal personality, right? They talk about their motivations, their values, who they are as a human being, right? But personality has a second component, and it's what people see. And the personality that people see may not align with the personality that you feel inside of you. And we often give ourselves better credit for some of the things that we've done, and we diminish other ones. Our brain is our own worst enemy. So we give ourselves really good credit for things that we think about, but we don't actually do. And then some of the things we actually do, we kind of push down because we want to be seen as humble or whatever the kind of thing is. So it's the same with this projection of our flexes. The projection of our flexes, like I never sleep, right? What do other people see, right? So I never sleep. I'm such a hard worker, blah, blah, blah. What other people are really saying is you have no boundaries, okay? My kid speaks Mandarin at 4 and they speak 3 other languages and everything else. I need validation as a parent is what other people are saying. Look how amazing I am on this kind of vacation. I need validation as a human being on social media because I have no friends. I work 100 hours per week. And what other people see is I really don't know how to manage my time. So we have this thing of what we think we're saying and doing, and not other people aren't really seeing it. An example I like to give when we talk about personality and giving ourselves credit and all this other stuff is a birthday card, right? Now, when I think about you on your birthday and I'm like, oh, I'm going to send that person a birthday card, right? And I give myself the credit because I thought of it. But then things get busy and everything, and I feel good about myself because I was going to send a birthday card, but I ended up not sending a birthday card. Nobody knows that I thought about that person's birthday because I never got the birthday card. You never received the birthday card, but in my mind, I've given myself the credit for sending a birthday card. Okay, it's the same thing with our personality and our flexes and our motivations and all these things. Something that really motivates you. If people don't know you or know the things that motivate you or impact you or potentially help you, if we don't explain to them what that is, then they generally don't see it. One of the things I did, I remember one time there was an app. I don't even know if it's still an app. Clubhouse may have been the app. I forget. I think it was something where everybody just talks and there was no tweeting or anything else. And in that kind of disruptive time where nobody really wants social media, but they're looking for a new social media and everything else. And people were trying to get me into their Clubhouse things. And they say, oh, you should join Clubhouse. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. So I tested it out a couple times. And the one guy who invited me into his thing was ranting and raving about how great his Clubhouse was because he had the record for the longest consecutive running Clubhouse room or something. He said he went over 48 hours nonstop in there. And it was such a flex for him. And I looked at it, I didn't even think. And I just said, so you don't have any clients? And he got bright red. It was, and I should have kept my mouth shut, but it was not the flex that he thought it was. It was not this kind of great thing. He goes, oh, right. All this time you spend on social media, that's great that you can, post 12 videos a day on LinkedIn, but I also know you're not hiring someone to do that because your content is crap, which means you basically you have no clients, right? And that's, so the flex we think is not always the one that we think it is. So personality, matching who we are versus what other people see, is one important component. When we think about authenticity and we think about, the day-to-day serenity that comes with making decisions that are true to yourself, we have to match who we are to what other people see. And there is, I don't remember who told me this, there is this thing like when you have a first impression, some people will look at you and they have an assumption, right? They have an assumption on the person that they're going to meet. And when you come up and you don't meet that assumption, something in their brain is off and they kind of shy away from you. And we have to teach people how to interact with us. We have to teach people the person that we are. And this has to go from beginning to end, from first impression to everything else. And flexing takes away from the person that you actually are. Flexing takes away from recognizing what your values, your motivations, and all those other good things are. And people are going to disconnect themselves from you because there is something off in an inauthentic way that doesn't allow them to kind of really connect with you in a meaningful way. And the flex also is sometimes a mask. So outside of the inauthenticity, lack of authenticity, I don't know if inauthentic is a word. I don't know if inauthenticity is. There is an insecurity component that we're typically trying to hide. It's like putting on a Halloween mask that doesn't quite fit. And when it doesn't quite fit, everybody sees that it's a mask. Right? Now, you may think it's an awesome Halloween costume, but everybody else sees that it's a mask. It's a shirt that doesn't quite fit. And when we do that, it's uncomfortable for people to see. Right? If we're masking, trying to mask an insecurity in some really kind of crazy way, other people are going to see right through that mask. Like, you're not fooling anybody. People are smart enough and very quick to dismiss other people so they can recognize when your mask is completely off. So that's that. So let's go through a couple of the typical flexes. So we've talked about authenticity, the person you are versus the person other people see, and we're hiding insecurities, okay? So there are different types of flexes that I can't stand, and I want to go off on a little bit of a rant here, so I'm going to do it anyway. We've got our cultural flexes, right? The cultural flexes of people basically like borrowing an identity. And the example Carl gave was he was in Scarsdale, New York, Westchester County, seeing a kid in his, I think it was his mom's minivan, blasting like Wu-Tang Clan or something like that. And you just look at it and you're like, all right, you're not, first of all, you're not hard. You live in Scarsdale. Second of all, like, you may like the music. That's okay. You don't have to let everybody know you like the music. There's this suburban versus inner city cultural thing all the time, which has fascinated me for a long time. I grew up in the Bronx and we moved to the suburbs when I was young, 10-ish. But I would always see in the suburbs people imagined what it was like for people in the inner city and thought they had to behave a certain way because that's how inner city people would do it. And they thought it was tough. And they thought it would be cool to carry like the guns and all that other kind of stuff. And you go to the people in the inner city, the real flexers, and they don't have any of that shit. They're just like, look, this is how it is, right? And they just kind of operate in their own kind of way. So there are people who have more exposure to like real flexing is the person who doesn't have to flex, right? The person who walks slowly in front of your car after the light turns green and makes you wait is, I've changed my mindset on them, is rather than get frustrated, is an incredibly insecure person. And they have no control over anything and they just want you to wait because they can't control anything else. And that's so depressing to me. Right? And when we look at these cultural flexes, it's depressing where it's just masked insecurity almost allows you to not get angry. Maybe this is the reason why I did this, is I want to stop getting angry at people and just have some kind of compassion for people who have no control over their lives. It's a very disappointing and miserable way to live in existence, to have no control over anything in your life. And cultural flexes is a big kind of reflection of that. Now you've got the workplace and LinkedIn flexes outside of that, which is you've got your community, you've got your workplace. I can't stand the corporate stuff. The people who have very little information and try to be experts on everything else. The humble brags, the stupid kind of, I just got married, this is how I think it relates to business development. The company saying we're a family here, but basically they just exploit you with guilt. The grind culture is so cringy. Real credibility in business, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working in an office, whether it's for anything else, has nothing to do with the performative nonsense that you put on LinkedIn or in the workplace. It's about results, it's about presence, and it's not about creating noise. Okay? So if you were to think about sitting at work and wanting to flex at work, there is a point where you have to take credit for your work. I'm not saying don't take credit for your work. I'm talking about stop trying to do this stupid flex so that everybody sees how amazing you are without actually making the progress and doing the things that are actually important, getting the results that actually matter. So that's a whole different kind of discussion I'm not going to go into now about who are the people that matter, that need to see you delivering results and make sure that you've got that kind of path in place. That's a separate kind of thing. Third, we've got social media flexes, which I don't have to go deep into this, but the satirical, I want to say it's satirical, but it's just not. The people I was following before I got off social media were the real satire people who were making fun of the whole kind of the influencer. Let me walk across New York City 7 times and the street and tell you about how great it is, my life is. And the Twitter worker who tried to put a video about how difficult her job was, where she was playing ping pong and basically worked for 12 minutes that day. The authentic crying selfies, the meal prep nonsense, like all this stuff is just, it's a request for validation. It's a request for acceptance. And it's a desperate need for relevance. And it's incredibly depressing. And again, not the flex that you think it is. And as you're going through these things, I've stopped posting. Like, they chop up these videos and post them up like whatever. I log into the computer, log out. I don't scroll anymore or any of those things, because as I would post something, I would look and I'm like, why am I even posting this? Like, who cares? Right? Let me enjoy my moment at the baseball game with my kid. I don't need to tell everyone that I'm at a baseball game with my kid, right? And just be present with the actual kid. This weekend was the first full weekend where I gave up all of it. And I had such an impactful, meaningful weekend with my kids. And I didn't do a lot on social media already. But just not having it around and not being around was so nice. And so are you actually doing something that's meaningful, or are you just begging for applause? And I'm willing to guess 99% of the nonsense you're doing is just begging for applause. And probably even the podcast that I'm doing is probably begging for applause, even though I don't get it. I mean, I really do it because I enjoy it. I used to work in radio, and I just like kind of, it's also cathartic for me to get my kind of frustrations out, my thinking out and everything else. So let's talk about the real flex, because I'm already at like 15 minutes. Here's your real flex. Authenticity. Being boring sometimes is actually confident. It's self-assurance, right? And a lot of people will tell you need confidence. I'm looking for confidence. And I get that from people who are looking for coaches and everything else. I need more confidence at work. And I disagree. I don't think it's confidence. It's self-assurance. Okay, it's a level of presence and belief in your capability that you're good enough today and that you have more to learn, right? Presence is way more important than individual performance in individual moments because presence over time increases performance. And that's where we need to focus. And so, enough of the looking externally for validation. It's more about a self awareness of what you enjoy to do, what you like to do, what motivates you, what values you hold, and embracing them unapologetically, right? Values and motivations are not bad things, okay? No matter what they are for you, they're not necessarily bad things. Embrace them unapologetically. Self awareness is very attractive to other people because when you're aware of what it is that you want, what motivates you and values you, you attract other people who have similar interests. That's the point. Flexing is not, and that's why we don't fit in anywhere. We flex so that we're being included with other groups of people and they're not authentic to us and we don't quite fit and it looks silly and we're like, we don't really feel like we fit and we're trying harder to fit and we're doing all this other kind of stuff and it doesn't quite work. Historically, flexing was about like survival, right? You could flex. And it's an interesting way to think about it. Like if you think back to the old flexes where you could just tell people, create this kind of myth around you, and you could almost argue the government, across many countries would do that. But now there's too much information out there about everybody where the emperor has no clothes and everybody kind of sees the same thing. And so now I'm not going to say humility is power. I would say self-assurance and confidence and belief in yourself is what real power is. And the unapologetic dropping of all this other nonsense is so healthy and beneficial to you because when bad things happen, whatever it is, you lose your job, something else happened, who knows? Like bad things happen to us all the time. It's when we know who we are that keeps us going and we know that the decisions we have to make, the path we have to take, the roads we have to take, and the turns we have to make. That's what helps, right? If you're flexing and pretending to be something you're not, when bad things happen, you have no leg to stand on because you're not wearing your legs. You're wearing somebody else's. So you have nothing else to potentially do. So the only people who don't look foolish flexing are the ones who don't need to flex. Right? It's a weird kind of thing where it's like you don't ask for recognition, you just do the things and expect that you're doing well enough. And so that's it. So stop flexing, enjoy it, because the flex you're doing is not the flex you think it is, because nobody believes you. And it doesn't matter that nobody believes you. It's all good. So have a wonderful week. Enjoy. Stop flexing. When you're tempted to show off this week, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check if it's a flex or just a flag waving out to everybody that you're insecure about something or you're trying to hide a mask. So have a wonderful week. I'll talk to everybody soon. And as always, thank you for listening.